YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. And I got player rankings for you guys today, going through each position group in the NFL and giving you my top 5 players at those positions halfway through this 2019 NFL season. So this is based off of play of the first half of this season only. Not past years, not years going forward. It's not predictions. Top 5 rankings, each position group based off of the first half of this 2019 season. So a lot of position groups to get to here. Right before we get started, we have a subscriber goal of 40K, so we'd really appreciate it if you can subscribe to our channel. Trying to get there by 2020. Full NFL content here. We got videos like these. We got recaps, power rankings, predictions for every game every week, and plenty more in the offseason, NFL draft, and free agency coverage. So we got you covered. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. There's a link in the description. Also a link in the description for the Patreon, where there's even more content. Patreon.com/thegoathouse. Playoff predictions updated every single week. Score predictions every week. NFL mock drafts updated with the right order every single week. All that is part of one package deal, and there's plenty more on the Patreon as well. So worth looking into. Patreon.com/thegoathouse. Link in the description. I did do quarterback rankings previously, very recently. There's already a video on the channel, my full 32 quarterbacks ranked based off the first half of the season. I felt like I should show you guys the top 5 here anyways in this video, but if you want to hear me go in depth and you want to see 6 through 32, go ahead and check that video out. It is up on the channel and was up very recently, so you can see my top 5: Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, and even Patrick Mahomes, even with missing some games. But the full 32 with a breakdown is in that recent video. But we're moving on to the other position groups that I have yet to rank, starting with the running backs. And I've hidden the number 1 for all these position groups until we start talking about that number 1. Number 5 is Aaron Jones, the Packers running back. This guy seems like he's getting faster by week. I don't know if anybody else has felt like that too, but it seems like he's getting faster and faster every week. And another thing he's getting better at is catching the ball out of the backfield or downfield and getting the yards after the catch. Super impressive, and he's a hard runner in between the tackles, outside the tackles. So he's been super impressive, really coming along. You see last year he showed glimpses of this, but he had somewhat of a minor injury last year. So good to see him healthy on the field. He is my number 5 running back on the year. My number 4 is Leonard Fournette. Some people are starting to doubt him, after last year. It's him not being in there all the time and not running like we expected. Very impressive so far. Even with the new scheme too, they get DeFilippo in there. I kind of had even though I'm a big Leonard Fournette fan, always thought highly of him and always believed in him. I did have some doubts at some times that he can handle this in this offense, but he's been great. He's been absolutely great. The main production from that Jaguars offense come through Leonard Fournette. The rookie from Alabama, Josh Jacobs, number 3. It's very possible that he can finish here at the end of the year, but if he does, it's going to be that much more impressive, but it's already super impressive. He's at number 3 because he's a rookie, and then people had him borderline first, early second. The Raiders take a chance on him, and he's been very good. He's made this whole Raiders offense better. Derek Carr's playing better, and it's because they have a good running game. And the same goes for number 2. It seems like the Vikings got more of a passing game going. It's because this year they have a way better running game, and Dalvin Cook has been dominant. It's weird seeing a number 2 next to his name because he's played well enough to be a number 1. But there are a few elite running backs based off this year in the NFL. But Dalvin Cook at 2, Josh Jacobs 3, Leonard Fournette 4, Aaron Jones 5, and the number 1, I bet everyone can guess it. It's Christian McCaffrey. He's today's NFL's back. Can do everything, can run, and that was kind of the worry. Can he run? Can he take the load in between the tackles or inside? And he can run outside, can catch the ball. He's probably he probably would be a better receiver than a lot of receivers in the NFL too. Probably be the best receiver on the Panthers, if I'm being honest. DJ Moore is pretty solid, but Christian McCaffrey. And not only did people worry about can he take that load, running inside the tackles. Not only can he do that, but he's putting the team on his back. He's taking the load of the team a lot of the times, and that's what's super impressive. Getting bigger, faster, and stronger every year, and the guy's just super impressive. Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook had they got a bit of battle going this year. So I think those are clearly the top two. And after that, you see my 3 through 5. Other guys I got to shout out. It's going to defeat the purpose if I sit here and shout out every single running back that's good. But Nick Chubb, Chris Carson, those guys are running really hard. Even Mark Ingram fitting really, really well with the Ravens in Lamar Jackson. So those guys have been impressive too. But those are my top 5 running backs through the halfway point of the 2019 season. To the receivers. Starting with number 5, I got Mike Evans, who's starting to heat up. A little quiet early in the year. It was mainly Chris Godwin, who was super impressive. Mike Evans is really starting to heat up. Just one of those guys, those jump ball artists you just throw the ball up to in a crucial situation where it's either, you got to catch the ball to keep the drive alive or score a touchdown, and he's kind of one of those guys that you can trust to come on with the ball. And even after the catch, looks like he's getting better after the catch as the season goes on even. He's number 5, and he's been playing a lot better recently. Kenny Galladay's number 4. Love this guy's game. Touchdown machine, a contested catcher machine, but actually very, very solid after the catch as well. Very, very athletic. You see these long guys that are contested catchers. You don't expect them to be that athletic, but Kenny Galladay is a future star and a top 5 receiver in the NFL already. It's the NIU product from a couple years ago, so super impressive. He's on another level this year, which helps Stafford get on another level this year. So Kenny Galladay, number 4. Cooper Kupp, another surprising one to see up here in the top 5. Number 3, he is the yak king of this year in terms of receivers. You just get the ball in this guy's hand. Don't matter the route, but it seems like a lot of times underneath, maybe on slants, and he's going to get you that extra yardage. It's ridiculous. It feels like Cooper Kupp, yes, Cooper Kupp is actually the guy putting the Rams on his back sometimes. It's crazy because their offensive line really ain't the same, which forces Goff not to be as good as last year. The running game doesn't look the same. Brandon Cooks is out with injuries. Robert Woods doesn't look the same, but Cooper Kupp is on another level with this, early stage of his career. Super impressive. Tyler Lockett is number 2. I want to talk about Russell Wilson, the best quarterback, the MVP maybe. Got to give some love to Tyler Lockett, getting open. No Doug Baldwin there. It's tough. Everyone's focus is on Tyler Lockett, and he's not only is he still doing it at a high level, he's doing it at a higher level right now. The ability to get open, and even on these crazy Russell Wilson throws, mainly the crazy throws by quarterbacks in the NFL, people forget that they're not the easiest catches either because they're tight window, right on the edge of the sideline, the end zone, wherever it may be, contested catch. And Tyler Lockett is making those plays, and that's what's impressive. And number 1 is probably no surprise to anybody either. It's Michael Thomas, has been the best contested catcher in the NFL this year. I mean, for a guy this strong, this size, the separation he gets is impressive, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, he doesn't really get anywhere near the amount of separation as maybe a Tyler Lockett or a Cooper Kupp, and he's still able to get the yards and all these big-time plays, and it's just super impressive. It seemed like the league was starting to go towards the route of the speedy receivers, the quick receivers were the better ones because they can just get the separation. When Michael Thomas makes you feel good about the position again. He would have been good 30 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, obviously, he's really good. He's just that type of receiver that you got to root for. So he's been the number 1 receiver for me so far. And a lot of receivers you can shout out. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, you think in general could be the best receiver in football, either him or Julio Jones, and they were very close to making the top 5. Chris Godwin, like I mentioned, he started the year off very, very strong, just missed the top 5. He's really coming along. Keenan Allen's been great. Amari Cooper, wish we can cut down the drops a little bit, but his route running's on another level. And then one to watch out for, a future star, is Courtland Sutton. That guy has been very impressive for the Denver Broncos. But that's my top 5 receivers through halfway through the season there. And we're on to the tight ends. And my number 5 is Mark Andrews. Started the year off a little better than maybe what's going now in terms of production, but still very happy with his play. And we'll see if he can get it going again because he's been very good and a unique weapon in that Ravens offense, who's one of the better teams in football right now. Austin Hooper, another surprise one. Nobody probably would have predicted him in the top 5 either, just like Mark Andrews and just like the guy that's at number 3. But Austin Hooper, always known as a pretty solid blocker, kind of sneaky in the red zone, but he's been sneaky good all over the field. Another good contested catcher as well. Darren Waller, though, he is a big-time contested catcher. You see the ability to go up and high point the ball, hang on to the ball. When he's getting hit and the DBs are trying to high point the ball, super impressive. And you can see kind of that mixture between receiver and tight end. And the more time he has with the Raiders, the better he's going to get. So that is scary. Freak athlete at tight end position, and he's been big time for that Raiders offense, and a big reason they've had success there, because we saw they're a little rough at the receiver position with no AB, and then Tyrell Williams was hurt too, so Waller coming up clutch for them. George Kittle at 2. 1 and 2 are pretty much, it's so close. It's tough not having Kittle with a number 1 next to his name, because he's played to that. Very good blocker, and has been ridiculous catching the ball, and even after the catch, he's been insane. And it sounds like I kind of just explained the number 1 guy too, who is Travis Kelce. They're pretty much in the same style tight ends, and they're pretty much on the same page in terms of talent. Travis Kelce just gets the edge, and he had Matt Moore as quarterback for a little bit there too. His guy goes down, and he's still able to produce and come up clutch for that Kansas City Chiefs team, so he is at number 1. We're on the offensive lineman. I combined tackles and guards here. Number 5 is Zach Martin, responsible for those gaping holes for Zeke Elliott. Just always been impressive. Zach Martin, that is, so it's really no surprise he's there. Brandon Brooks, I haven't been thrilled in terms of the Eagles' offensive line. In terms of consistency this year, it's starting to pick it up recently. I know there were some injuries starting to pick it up recently, but one guy I've been thrilled with the whole year is Brandon Brooks. We see the Eagles actually getting running, as the season's gone on, a great running game between the duo, Howard and Miles Sanders, who people kind of, people liked one of them, or maybe liked both of those guys, but they really doubted the run game of the Eagles, and it's really getting going, which could help the pass game in the long run. Brandon Brooks is responsible for those truck-sized holes you see, among other guys. Ryan Ramczyk is really coming along. That pick was a little confusing to me, when the Saints picked him a couple years ago. That's right where he should have went, so not in terms of value. I just didn't think the Saints needed him, but now we see that they needed him. I mean, the Saints, you could argue, have the best offensive line in football, right there with the Colts possibly, and this guy's just impressive. He is an impressive tackle. Big reason why that Saints offensive line is that good. Quentin Nelson, probably my favorite offensive lineman to watch. You just see him bullying people, and you see him just run blocking. You see him downfield so much with guys like Marlon Mack right alongside him, even in front of him. And obviously the pass protection, nothing gets in from the inside. Super impressive guard, Quentin Nelson. And number 1 is, I think, a guy that doesn't get enough appreciation here. It's Ronnie Stanley. And something I'm just noticing is there's 3 Notre Dame offensive linemen here. They keep pumping out these old linemen. Too bad they can't pump out some quarterbacks. Really rough in that position group recently, but Ronnie Stanley does not get enough credit what he's doing with this Ravens offensive line. The offensive line in general is real good too. Marshall Yanda, but it's tough to play in an offensive line. It is tough. They run a gap scheme for the most part with Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram, and it's much harder to do for single players, specific players, than a zone blocking scheme. So Ronnie Stanley has been super impressive. In Lamar Jackson, it's not just get the ball and run. It's get the ball and kind of, we want to go outside a little bit, but you can't just run all the way outside every single play. You kind of want to get right in between the guard and the tackle, and Ronnie Stanley deserves a lot of credit for the success of that Ravens offense, of Lamar Jackson's success so far. A great season, a possible MVP season. So Ronnie Stanley's been super impressive for the Baltimore Ravens. He's my number 1 offensive lineman this year so far. We're on to defense. We're going to have some defensive linemen. Number 5 is DeForest Buckner of the 49ers, and a lot of 49ers defensive guys we can talk about. DeForest Buckner is that obvious one, that obvious standout on the defensive line, getting pressure and can stop the run at a high level. J.J. Watt makes the list, even though he is out the rest of the season. Based off the first half of the season and even missing a game there, he's been dominant. Towards the top. He was leading the league in pressures for the most part. And now, obviously, he's hurt. We won't be seeing him at the end of the year rankings for this, so that's unfortunate. But a dominant start of the year, just very unfortunate that he had to get hurt. And number 3 is Cameron Hayward of the Steelers. See this guy moving around to different defensive line spots. Elite run stopper, and he's going to get after the quarterback too. You're going to have to put 2 guys on this guy to stop him, because he's been dominant. The Steelers win games because of that front 7. It starts with Cameron Hayward, super impressive. Calais Campbell has been super, super impressive for me this year. Number 2 on the list from the Jacksonville Jaguars. A guy that was kind of known as a pass rusher. He was on the Cardinals. He was kind of known as a D-end, but more as a pass rusher D-end for the Jags. They get Josh Allen. They're free to have Calais Campbell slide all over the place, inside, outside. He's getting pressure. He's more inside than outside, and he's still getting that much pressure, can get pressure from anywhere, and he's been dominant. He's getting up there. A lot of these guys getting up there in age, and they're still dominant, so he is at number 2. And number 1, defensive lineman for this year. Not really a surprise. It's Aaron Donald. A little quiet from him just because of the sacks. He's not getting the crazy amount of sacks he did last year, but this guy is still a machine. He's still getting pressure. He still has a decent amount of sacks. And he's getting doubled and tripled now more than ever. But the tackles for loss he's really racking those up. He's always in the backfield making a big-time play, and people forget that he's an elite run stopper too. The guy is dominant. A little bit quiet, the talk on him just because he doesn't have the insane amount of sacks to lead the NFL. But he does have 5 right now. He's been super impressive recently. He's wouldn't surprise me if he got going. He's towards the top of the NFL in sacks in no time anyways. So he is my number 1 defensive lineman. Some other guys that I strongly, it's hard to leave a lot of these guys out. Armstead, you almost saw 2 Niners on here. Armstead has been dominant. If you look at the stats, he's actually had a little more production than BUCKNER for the most part. I just think BUCKNER makes more of an impact, helps his teammates more, but Armstead just missed. Derek Wolfe recently of the Broncos starting to heat up, back to what we thought he would be, the last few games. He's really getting going. Fletcher Cox is obviously a dominant defensive lineman. He's going to stop the run, get some pressure. And Jordan Phillips of the Bills, that's a highly productive defensive lineman that's been super impressive. So good amount of D linemen considered there. Now I split up pass rushers 3-4 and 4-3 because there's so many damn good pass rushers in the league. Let's get a lot of them out here. So 3-4 defenses, pass rushers. These are typically outside linebacker, edge rushers. Number 5 is Khalil Mack. A little underwhelming season, but still a dominant player. I still think the best defensive player in the league, honestly. If I had a defensive draft, that's the guy I'm picking first. He's number 5. A little underwhelming, weird situation going on with Chicago. A little disappointing, so that's bringing some guys down. But you talk about guys that single-handedly won games. I know Moore plays into it. I don't want to give him all the credit on the Bears defense. But look at the 3 wins the Bears have. You're talking about the Broncos game where he got tons of pressure and forced Garrett Bowles to get called for a bunch of holding calls. The Vikings, he single-handedly made big-time plays. The strip sack, the first play of the game, the second half. And the Redskins game, I don't have to go any further. He absolutely dominated that game, dominated the offensive line and Case Keenum in that game. This guy's responsible for wins for the Chicago Bears, and he may very well be the best defensive player in football. But he's at number 5. TJ Watt's at number 4. For the Steelers, and just like Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt responsible for a lot of that great front 7 play of the Steelers, and he's getting going too. He's really getting going lately. Constant pressure, all kinds of production, super fun to watch. Always trying to get his hands on the ball too. Chandler Jones at 3. It's a guy we always expect up here. He's going to get consistent production. Consistently good play, great play that is. He's getting after the quarterback and making plays too, forcing fumbles. Shaq Barrett is at number 2, kind of a surprising one, a great signing for the Buccaneers. Didn't play a whole bunch for the Broncos, was decent in his time, but the Buccaneers, they found a fit there in that new defense. They switched to a 3-4. And obviously, towards the top of the NFL in all kinds of categories. So obviously, he's getting to the quarterback and doing more than that, getting his hands on the ball, being a playmaker. So he is number 2. And my number 1 3-4 pass rusher is Zadarius Smith. Just blown away by this guy. People saw the gamble in free agency. It's a big-time gamble because he kind of was a one-year guy with the Ravens. Maybe he was a one-year wonder. This guy's been absolutely dominant. One of those guys that just makes players around him better. You see the pressure. The main reason he's number 1, he will get pressure from the inside and the outside. Really, not too many pass rushers we'll talk about can do that. He will get consistent pressure from both. The focus is on him in terms of the offense, that they're game planning for around Zadarius Smith, and he makes his teammates a lot better. And usually those guys that kind of make their teammates better and help them get the sacks, they don't really have the best production, but this guy has great production this year too. So blown away by his game this year. He's my number 1 3-4 pass rusher. 4-3 pass rushers. We see the BOSA brothers at 4-5. I actually got the rookie, the younger BOSA brother, ahead. Nick BOSA at 4, Joey at 5. Both tremendous talent. Nick's more of a freaky talent. It's crazy. I just been more impressed with him, but both obviously deserving of my top 5. And we'll talk about the 3-4 and 4-3 pass rushers that just missed the list after I get through this one right here. But yeah, Joey Bosa, we see him much better with Melvin Ingram. Nick Bosa, I mean, he's already facing double teams, and he's been so dominant. And then Cameron Jordan, you think, is this guy, we're going to start to see a little bit of a decline here anytime? Maybe. No, he's still playing at a super high level, maybe higher now than ever. I mean, it's ridiculous. Cameron Jordan for the Saints, big reason the Saints defense has been that good. Number 2 is Danielle Hunter of the Vikings, leads the NFL in quarterback pressures and towards the top of the NFL in sacks. So he's been extremely impressive there, and only 25 years old too. And number 1 is going to be Myles Garrett, really carrying this Browns defense. That's why he's at number 1. And he's consistently getting pressure, at the same time it's going up over games as we're getting closer to this point down the line of the season. I mean, he's getting more and more pressure. And it feels like he's, I mean, there's other solid players in the Browns defense, but it feels like if you take away Myles Garrett, the Browns may have one of the worst defenses in football. He's putting the team on his back, and he's dominant. The focus is definitely on him when it comes to offense's game planning. But pass rushers that just missed the cut, you talk about the 3-4 guys. I mean, the rookie Josh Allen has looked really good. Melvin Ingram would be on there if he didn't miss some games. And then Preston Smith, the other Packers pass rusher. For the 4-3 defensive end, Brandon Graham was really the only one I considered. He's getting consistent pressure and always impressive there for the Eagles. But there's a bunch of pass rushers we can talk about all day here. There's a bunch of them in the league. But we're moving on here to the linebackers. A lot of good linebackers, too. Number 5 is JAYLON Smith of the Cowboys, guy that flies around on the ball. Very good in coverage as well. I mean, this you can see, his athleticism and his instincts. You can see he can play multiple different positions. I mean, this guy could be a pass rusher if he wanted to. Sometimes he looks like a safety. Not that I would line him up at safety, but sometimes, the way he drops back and makes play on the ball, he looks like a safety. Dominant for the Cowboys. And Van Der Esch, I think a little off this year, actually, compared to last year. I know he's had some injuries here and there, but JAYLON Smith, I think, is picking up the slack of that linebacker unit. Bobby Wagner, who between number 3 and 4 here, those two are the top tier middle linebackers in football. And Bobby Wagner, I think, started off a little quiet. I won't say slow, but a little quiet, and really getting going recently, and showing why he could be the best middle linebacker in football. And Kuechly, right off the gate, has been dominant all over the field, every single game in coverage, in the run game, crucial moments. And then Jamie Collins at number 2, kind of that hybrid linebacker for the Patriots. And it's surprising to see his name next to number 2. Kind of a letdown with the Browns and back on the Patriots and dominant. He's getting his hands on the ball. And like I said, use him as a hybrid guy. He's really getting after the quarterback pretty consistently, because the Patriots don't have the best, actual pass rushers. On paper, they're pass rushers. They're solid, but that's the spot they can get better at. But that's where Jamie Collins comes in. He's kind of that utility player there on the defense for them, and has been absolutely dominant. Tons of production from him. And number 1 is Eric Kendricks. Pretty surprising that he actually finds his way to number 1. He having a career year, just a dominant season for him. And it's crazy. And you look at the Vikings defense too. Talk about 2 years ago, probably elite defense, or definitely elite defense. Last year, not elite, but very, very good. I think the Vikings defense is starting to go downhill a little bit. It doesn't look anywhere as near as good, and it feels like Eric Kendricks and Danielle Hunter are really carrying that defense. And Eric Kendricks is super important in that defense. And if you watch the Vikings, this guy is showing up like crazy. Every time there's a crucial play, it's a 3rd down, 4th down, this guy's in the backfield either pressuring the quarterback. This guy's making a stuff on the running back in the backfield. And he's been the best coverage linebacker in football this year for middle linebackers. Towards the top of the NFL in pass deflections, right there with the cornerbacks. Insane numbers there. He's been super impressive there for the Vikings. Slot corners, we're going to go slot corners and corners. So the slot corners, number 5 is Desmond King. I forgot to mention my honorable mention linebackers real quick. Corey Littleton was very tough leaving him off, very good in coverage. Jayon Brown, the Tennessee Titans, like him a lot as well. And Alexander Johnson, kind of a surprise guy of the Broncos. Even Shaq Thompson for the Panthers has been super impressive. But the slot corners, number 5 is Desmond King. Obvious one. A lot of these are, 4, 5, I should say, are the obvious ones. You kind of expect Desmond King and Kenny Moore to be up here. Very dominant, controlling the slot, big-time playmakers. We see King blitz a lot, too. Yeah, Kenny Moore's been pretty much a lockdown there in the slot. And then kind of the surprising ones, Kwan Williams at number 3 for the Niners. That Niners secondary has been very good, and this has been a lockdown guy in the slot. And then Jonathan Jones, who came out of nowhere, but it's the Patriots. We're kind of used to guys coming out of nowhere with the Patriots. Former Auburn Tiger. Really out of nowhere, just been amazing in the slot, ridiculous. And they got an unlimited amount of corners, and it doesn't really matter. Some of them don't even touch the field because these guys are so good up here. And they lock him up for the future, too, and there's a reason for that. He's just been super impressive. But there's a no-brainer number one. This guy's been absolutely dominant this year. I'd say an elite slot corner in the NFL. And kind of speaking of the Patriots, but he's not a Patriot. It's Logan Ryan, former Patriot, and he's been in the league for a while. And he's been on the Patriots, and I think right now, we got to finish the season, but I think right now on the Tennessee Titans, he's having a career year. This guy is doing everything you ask a slot corner to do. Everything. He's not just covering guys. He's getting deep downfield making plays. He's getting in the backfield making plays, getting after the quarterback making plays. Highly productive. This guy's everywhere. Insane season Logan Ryan is having right now. Easily the number one slot corner, in my opinion. Those slot corners very impressive this year. Only one I really considered was Justin Coleman of the Lions. He started the year off as maybe a top tier one, maybe number one, number two. The defense of the Lions kind of goes with it lately, kind of been dropping off. So he started off first, with 3 weeks, we'll say, pretty hot. So just misses a list because of that. Now we're on to the corners here. Number 5, what do you know? Another 49er defensive player, Richard Sherman. I thought maybe he can be declining slowly. Nope, he's playing at a very high level, locking down top-tier receivers in that secondary. It's a very good unit. Tre'Davious White of the Bills is number 4. He's been a lockdown guy. Very impressive. Hasn't given up a touchdown yet. And not really giving up too many catches and yards either. He's been super impressive. Marshawn Lattimore at number 3. Another guy that's, I think, one of the most improved defensive players. 2 years ago, I loved his game, loved where he was heading. Last year, I thought he was a little bit of a letdown. He made plays downfield, but he gave up some good amount of yards last year. I think got burned a bit, but this year's a whole different player. Looks like he's faster, quicker. The footwork is on another level this year, and just locking down number 1 receiver is super impressive, and he can come up and hit too. And Marlon Humphrey, another super impressive guy because he's still early on in his career. Just everyone kind of remembered him as that track star. He used to be a track star, super fast, super athletic, and now you just look at the guy and he's gonna be a physical corner, whether it's at the line or downfield. Physical enough to not get called for a PI, been locking down top-tier corner or receivers, and this guy's very young still, so he's on his way possibly to number 1. Marlon Humphrey's been super impressive with that Ravens defense. And number 1's a no-brainer. It's Stephon Gilmore. A good mixture of everything. Great ball skills. Could be a lockdown guy. Could be a physical guy at the line, and just super instinctive. He just knows the game, and that's what happens when you get on the Patriots. You just see him reading the quarterback and know exactly what's going to happen. You see him get to slants at the end of the route before the receivers at the end of the route because he knows 100% that the quarterback is throwing that ball, and he knows 100% that's the play. That is what stands out the most to me. That plays like that are just super impressive. So Stephon Gilmore, number 1. Other guys, I talked about Richard Sherman. Emmanuel Mosley is coming out of nowhere. That guy almost made this list too. He's playing ridiculous. Yeah, he's actually been maybe more of a lockdown guy than Sherman. Sherman's going against, more number 1s, obviously. Emmanuel Mosley's been super impressive. James Bradbury of the Panthers. We don't expect a whole bunch from this guy. This guy's been lights out this year. And then Jalen Ramsey, when it's all said and done, will be up here. And then, based off the games he did play, he played well enough to be up here, but he's missed some games. Don't like how he handled things too, so I kind of just left him out there. But mainly because he has missed some games. These guys have been balling out. Tough to leave some of those really good corners off the list there. And then we're moving on to the safeties. You see number 5, Jordan Poyer of the Bills. First couple games, maybe it's the Micah Hyde show, and it turned into the Jordan Poyer, both of them show. It's a very good safety duo, but lately it's been the Poyer show back there. He does everything. He does everything he has to safety to do, always flying around. He's not going to miss tackles. He's going to be a safe tackler. He can make plays on the ball. Super impressed with Jordan Poyer and Hyde for that matter of fact there. And number 4 is Jamal Adams. A guy that could do it all. My favorite type of safeties are do-it-all safeties. You see him in the back end, you see him at center field, but a lot of times you see him in the box. But he's in the box because he's instinctive. He knows the play, and been big time for them. And we see why teams call and offer so much to trade for him, and why the Jets are asking for so much more. It's because he's a dominant player, bright future. Kevin Byard at number 3, guy that controls the middle of that Titans defense. another one of those do-it-all guys. He'll come up in the box and make a run stop, but then he'll be way deep downfield and make a play on the ball. And then Devin McCourty, talk about playmaking ability. I mean, this guy leads the NFL in interceptions. Him and Gilmore, kind of lead that best secondary in football there. McCourty has been a ball hawk all year. He's at number 2. And then number 1 is kid I'm thrilled with, young safety here. I'm really thrilled with his play this year. Every time I watch the Denver Broncos, Justin Simmons is absolutely everywhere. A fantastic playmaker, always flying to the ball, even when it's not his responsibility. Every time I'm watching the Broncos defense, it's just this guy. This guy is, whether it's 50 yards downfield, the ball's in the backfield. You don't typically see him flying in the backfield to make a big time stuff or anything, but the guy flies around the ball. He's a hell of a playmaker and becoming instinctive too. I'm just blown away by his play, and he's young, so he can hopefully hold on to the spot for this year, but kind of hold this spot possibly for the years to come there. And then other safeties, a lot of good safeties here. I talked about Micah Hyde, almost made the list too, another Bills player. Another 49er, Jimmy Ward, he missed some games, but I've been thrilled with him when he's been back. Marcus Williams, excited about him with the Saints because I had a first-round grade on him, and then a little shaky early on in his career, and he's really coming along, so Marcus Williams just missed a cut. And now Minkah Fitzpatrick is playing more of a true safety role on the Pittsburgh Steelers and not in the slot, and it shows how talented this guy is, and he's playing a playmaker role at a true safety role there, and he's been big time for them, so he can definitely make his way on this list. When we do this again at the end of the year, and we'll do a top 100 players, all that kinds of fun stuff when the year's over. But yeah, that's the thumbnail for the QB rankings, because that video is already up. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. I ranked 32 NFL quarterbacks based off their play in the first half of the season. I also predicted what we can see from them in the second half of the season. If their play will go up, down, stay about the same. So a lot going on in that video. Please check it out if you haven't quite yet. But let me know your guys' thoughts on these top 5s. If you guys want to comment your top 5s, that'd be very cool. I like to see everyone else's different opinion there. But I had a lot of fun doing this video. But hopefully you can join us for our other scheduled videos every single week. Like I said, recaps for every week, power rankings updated every week, predictions with other members of the GOAT House, score predictions for every single game, and then that goes on all year long. Playoff predictions, Super Bowl predictions when we get there, in the offseason free agency and NFL draft coverage. So we got the action. We got the NFL action all year long. So hopefully you can join us for all that. Please subscribe. Trying to get to that 40K goal. Appreciate you guys very much for being here and watching this video. That's going to do it for this one. Goodbye.